So what I like about this group is nobody quits. Nobody throws in the towel.
Especially Bernadette. Actually, I'm so close to quitting every 10 minutes, but
what I was going to say, nobody wanted to quit on this book because this book was really kind of got you by the neck and pulled you along, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It absolutely did.
Okay. Well, let's see. Is Marcia here?
Yeah, she's there.
Oh, why is this always such a cluster?
Oh, you said cluster. Oh, I'm telling.
And we type in the number and then it says another meeting in progress again.
I have no idea. I mean, I did have a meeting earlier today, but I did the end meeting for all. And I'm going to say this again. Kathy Cutler, the tech wish, she got in, so she can do it.
Yeah. I
did the exact number. It just said another meeting in progress and it kept spinning. So
that's so weird.
Oh, well, we're all here. Here's to all of us, sane and safe and whatever.
Yeah. So our host or our facilitator today is Tisha May. And I just want to provide a little background. Tisha, along with Karen, was one of the original founders of the Primetime for Women book club. And it actually morphed from another book club called No Name, which was the Italian pronunciation of No Name Book Club. Did not come up with a cute name. So Karen and Tisha, how do you say your maiden name, Tisha? Shafino. The Italians said it's no name. So anyhow, Tisha, thanks for being here and agreeing to facilitate tonight's discussion.
All right, we're going to start with squats. Now, everybody, just kidding. Did everybody like the book?
Yes.
I liked it. Yeah, I liked it a lot. It was riveting. It was riveting.
Yeah.
There were a lot of red herrings floating around there.
Oh, wasn't there though? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. It's sometimes I think I am an unreliable narrator of my own life. Sometimes I think we all are. It's hard to know who to trust in this novel. Who did you want to believe, Anna or Jack?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Who did you believe, but who did you want to believe?
Yeah. Who are you rooting for?
Jack.
I wanted to believe both of them, and I wanted to believe it was someone else who was responsible. And in the end, it was.
Yep.
I mean, I would say I wanted to believe her. I felt bad for her. There's little miniatures. I actually have a friend that keeps miniatures in her purse, and I just felt like she was screwed up but struggling, and I kind of felt bad for her.
I kind of wanted to believe Jack because I think that Anna had, I do think she was a little screwed up, but I think that Jack hadn't really let anybody down. It didn't seem to me, but Anna had, and the other girls had sort of been mean to, what was her, Catherine, whatever.
Anna had a little bit of an evil side. I don't know if evil is too strong a word, but Zoe
was evil.
Well, yeah, that's true. But there were just sides of her where she was not kind. Let me just put it that way, not kind. And Jack, I never saw an unkind side to him, even though for a while I thought he could have done it, but I didn't see him as being unkind. What about you, Tish? You asked the question.
Felt like Jack. I think Jack also. I wanted to believe him. Yeah. I felt like he was being set up and somebody was watching him. Yeah, I really wanted to believe him.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing with Jack. He was a good guy, but he was definitely not a good cop. He was not following any of the protocols. He should have excused himself out of that case from the very beginning. He was married to one of the people. He had just had sex with the woman who did. I mean, I'm like, what are you doing? Get yourself out of that situation. but
I
whatever.
think he was in that small town for so long, he became lax,
Yeah.
you know?
I think he was a cop and thought cops can do anything.
Could be. Could be. Someone was going to say something. Was it Angela? Were you going to say something, or Karen? And then
No, I was just going to say that I favored Jack because he seemed to be the less messed up of any of them. He seemed, I mean, it was a bunch of really doozy people in this book.
yeah, yes,
It just goes to show, sometimes people think if you live in a small town, you have all these cute small town things going on. And the big cities where all the evil stuff happens, not so much.
yeah.
And I have to say, it's not that I really liked Anna, especially at the beginning, but I felt like she was damaged.
Yeah.
I think I kind of felt bad because she was so damaged.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what was your favorite twist in the book?
Oh God, how much time do you have?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I was working on a crossword puzzle, and first of all, I have to say I was listening to this on Audible instead of reading it because I'm reading another novel. So I started it, and it has 3 narrators, Jack and Anna, and then there's this voice that's like this. Oh, I just want you to know it's like a distorted voice, and that's the evil person that you know that that's the murderer, but it's a voice distorter, so you don't know if it's male or female. It was really a creepy sounding voice, but I will tell you, I got more cleaning done, more tasks, even did the baseboards because I didn't want Matt to be pissed off at me because I was just listening to this book until it was over. So I was super into doing all my chores. I weeded. Oh my God, it was killing me.
Multitasking. Yes, no one can say anything about you. That's right. That's right.
And I'm the busy beaver.
Yep, exactly.
But there were a lot of twists in this book, but the one that got me, and maybe it was the way I read it, was the fact that she I thought she implied that Zoe might have not been his sister, and we were sort of led along until at one point, finally, it says his sister, because it said he was living with a woman and a child.
Right.
Yeah.
So the implication was that it wasn't his sister at all, and I thought, well, bugger me, it's his sister of all things.
And then you had to think to yourself, what's he doing with that sister?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah,
That was a weird, that was like total mind bending. It was like, what? Because you just like, there was everything to indicate that they were in a relationship, and then it just sister. That one threw me. I did not see that.
I thought that was a little.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be there. That one was over the top.
Yeah. God,
I think the twist that surprised me the most was the fact that Anna's mom was not suffering from dementia, that she had been putting on that carefully orchestrated act for all those months as she planned these events.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's the one that got me too.
I also thought at one time there was Priya kind of had some like weird little twists in her relationship with Jack. Like one minute she's being, I think, sort of flirty, and the next she's like, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of a unusual dynamic. I couldn't figure out where it was going.
Well, the book was kind of that way. I mean, I give the writer a lot of credit for her ability to get us all over the place and not knowing where we were or who was doing what or who was good and who was bad. I mean, she really did an excellent job of mixing things up.
Yep. Exactly.
For most of the book, I thought the murderer was Catherine, but I didn't realize that Catherine was Kat. I thought just because, the schoolmaster Chang was targeted and she had been one of the real mean ones that gave them all the same, wrote the same paper, and they turned it in and both got in trouble. The other, what did the other girl do to Catherine? But anyhow, I just assumed that it was I was thinking it was Catherine, but I had no idea that Catherine was Kat at the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, that seemed hard to believe that she wouldn't recognize her at all.
Yeah.
You know, as being a friend when she was younger and then showing up later in life. That
Well,
was
yeah,
sort of
but, you know,
an interesting.
people wouldn't recognize me because I used to be so homely and now I'm so beautiful.
There you go. There
Yes.
you go. Absolutely.
And besides, I used to be 5'5", but due to osteoporosis, I'm now 5'5".
You know, you should be the protagonist in a novel because you're just really messed up. That's all.
That's it. That's nothing. I am screwed up.
Yeah, you'd be perfect for this book. You'd be perfect.
Well, I think it's interesting, like if somebody would have asked you at the very beginning, or after you were into it a little bit, who's the person that is the least likely that you would guess committed these crimes?
Yeah, it would be the mother.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
But we didn't
Yeah.
ask that question, so.
yeah.
And that girl, Catherine, when she was younger, her hair was really limp and she pulled out all her eyebrows. And as she got older, I guess she dyed her hair was red. And I guess that's why, you know, she probably had a makeover. That's why she wasn't recognized.
Plus, she got her braces off, you know.
She hid herself. She didn't make herself known.
Yeah.
Okay. The quote, in the future, I expect people will long for 15 minutes of privacy rather than 15 minutes of fame. Given that Anna is such a private person, why do you think she pursued a career as a TV journalist? Was it to please her mother on some level, who had named her after a popular TV broadcaster? Anybody?
Well, I don't know that TV broadcasters are exactly in this category, but I think it's an interesting kind of dichotomy with people who are actors. You know, you think, oh, they're so gregarious and they're so out there, they're so extroverted and all of this. And many times I've heard that actors do that because they want to hide themselves and they can become someone else and they can be a different person. And so their true personality is hidden in some ways. They become other people. And so I don't know if you can extrapolate that to news broadcasters, but maybe you can at some level. I mean, I think there are people that might be introverted or private who do that because it allows them to perhaps hide the person they really are. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think with actors, I've heard people say that I can become anybody I want to become. I don't have to be me. You know, I can become someone else.
Almost like the alter ego
Mhm.
that you can look at and like or be proud of or something.
I actually thought she was, because she was damaged, I think she was looking for external validation. She didn't really have that coming from the inside. And I think having people tune into the BBC and being seen, you know, was incredibly validating for her. So I think that though she said she thought 15 minutes of privacy would be better than 15 minutes of fame, I think she was looking for that. She was so devastated when Kat came back. Yeah, and by the way, that wouldn't really happen in a work environment where somebody would just, if you've been doing a job like that, they would find a way to give you a temporary position or, yeah, I thought that was.
And she found out on the day she thought she was going on air.
Yeah, that didn't.
Just waltzed back in.
Well, that was because she didn't check her email. Remember, it was up on the thing, but she.
That's right. Yeah.
She was too important.
She was too important.
I just want to say this about Anna. Everybody's talking about how damaged she is. Now, come on. If your mother was a serial killer, you'd be damaged too. That's all I have to say. The children of serial killers are not in a good place normally. I'm just saying. That's all. my contribution to her psyche.
Words
Well
of wisdom
said,
from
Kathy.
Kathy Cutler.
Well, that and her best friend, I mean, that best friend of hers was, I mean, terrible person.
Yep.
I mean, I can't even imagine she stayed with her as a best. I mean, at one point she broke away, but somebody like that, I think I'd have distanced myself a long time before she did.
Sometimes if
Especially
you're
after the
so,
incident in the
I think she was
cafeteria.
so insecure. The character was so insecure.
Mhm.
She didn't have a father living there. The father left because he was beating his mother. Maybe she thought she wasn't worthy, you know. Yeah, people wind up staying in bad relationships, lots of different kinds of relationships. And I think it's almost always because there's not self-acceptance or self-validation.
Yeah.
I guess things started to fall apart when her father disappeared and there was no money and her, you know, style of living and
Work.
change and everything. And but I mean, people survive that. But what I was fascinated by, not one of them went for any kind of psychiatric help or even, you know, get any help at all. And they had to know they had serious problems.
Well, Jack took the mother for psychiatric care, and she baffled them. You know, she fooled them. But I was going to say something about the mother. Yeah, she was screwed up. She was really screwed up.
Yeah. Okay, the quote, home is not always where the heart is. For people like me, home is where the hurt lives that made us into who we are. The quintessential English town of Blackdown is a fictional setting where places like it do exist. What makes some people desperate to escape tight-knit communities while others never want to leave?
I think sometimes just the fact that you are a known entity and people expect you to act in a specific way and you're like hemmed in would cause one to want to leave.
Sharon, didn't you say one time that you had felt that need to leave?
Yes, just because my parents were well known in the community, I was always their daughter. So I went away to college, went to another state to find a job where no one knew my parents, so I could be who I was and not live on someone else's reputation. Not that they were bad or the community was bad or I didn't love them at all. Just I wanted to be myself away from people who knew my background.
Yeah, can I ask you a question about that? You were pretty young to come to that decision. How old were you when you said to yourself, I want to be...
As a senior in high school, I already decided I wanted to go away as an exchange student.
Okay.
So I gave up graduation here and prom here, and I did it happily to experience Brazil. So,
Well, probably you felt like you were always being watched too.
mm-hmm.
And you couldn't have freedom to have a life because you're.
But it was one of those things where my dad would come home from counting money after church with reports from my 6th grade teacher of what I've done well or not well that week.
Yeah, that's bad.
But there also might be an individual who maybe didn't have that strength of character that you had, Sharon, that, you know, despite maybe their situation being not optimal, it's just too scary. It's too scary to leave that nice cocoon that they know. It's like the fear of the unknown is just too much to handle for the devil, you know.
Well,
So
and there's nothing wrong with having a large community of relatives and family who are there to help you in situations also. They're good. There are benefits and disadvantages in every situation.
Yeah, I would say growing up in a family of 7 sisters born in 8 years, there was times like, oh, another Howard. You know, it's like the teachers didn't even necessarily in the beginning bother to know my name. Oh, she's a Howard. And, you know, when we swam on the swim team, you know, Kathy was at the 13, 14, Jeannie and I were both at 11, 12, Patty and Barry were both in the 9, 10 age group. And it'd be like, there was just there was just all of us all the time. And there was tons of advantages to being known. And there was also tons of disadvantages to being compared and sometimes coming up short.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it comes back to, do you want to be a big fish in a little pond or a little fish in a big pond? I love the anonymity of a large community, of a big city. I like that. I've always lived in a small community where everybody knew everybody. And sometimes it's just a pain in the tush.
Yeah.
Yep.
You just, I want to go out to dinner, but I don't want to talk to a million people while I'm doing it. That type of thing.
Yep. Tish, can I take a little bit of a detour on that real
Absolutely.
quickly? I read a book in college or shortly after college. It was called Is There Life After High School? And it really was a very important book to me because I was not very popular in high school. You know, I wasn't in the lowest group, but I wasn't in the highest group where I was the prom queen or the cheerleader, or I didn't date the quarterback on the team, you know. And I think, so, you know, when you're in high school, you kind of look up to those people in a way, you know. It's like, oh, look at who they are. And so, you know, I went off to college, and then I went out of my small town. It was a small town. It had like 18,000 people. And the book said that what they had found in their research was that people who were very popular in high school and were the big men and women on campus, so to speak, in high school, that many times those were the ones who stayed in that town. And the book said, really, their apex, their highest point in their life was being the quarterback of the high school team. And they wanted that adulation, over and over again. And they stayed in that town because everybody recognized them. They were the quarterback, whatever, they were the prom queen. And that people who were not that popular in high school went on and actually were much more successful in many ways, because they were always striving to be more, because they never quite came up to what they wanted to be in high school. It was always, I wasn't good enough. And so they're always striving. They ended up being very successful, and those that were successful in high school ended up not being so successful. High school was it. And then they stayed in that town and did whatever, But
So they
anyway,
peaked in high school. They
yeah.
peaked.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. And to answer your question, like I said, that's like a detour. But I think perhaps if again, someone said, if you're comfortable, if you're popular, if everybody knows you, kind of the opposite perhaps of what Sharon was saying, they want to stay there because they're valued. But others who didn't feel valued perhaps went out to find their value in other places. That's what I would say.
Makes sense.
Of course, I think it also depends on the individual. I'm sure there's people in both groups who did the opposite, it's just a generality.
Yep.
Okay, so their quote, popularity can spoil a place just like it can spoil a person. What do you think the killer meant by that?
Read it again. Popularity can
spoil a place just like it can spoil a person.
Well, when you get caught up in your own demagoguery, when you believe that you are this wonderful, awesome thing and forget what it's like to feel compassion and empathy for other people.
I don't recall that in the book.
These quotes are all things that the killer has said.
Oh,
Yeah, and I think from the mother's perspective, popularity, what was the evil girl's name?
Rachel.
Yeah. Rachel's popularity spoiled her, and then it impacted their whole high school environment and the community. And so I think that from that mother's perspective, not only did the popularity ruin Rachel in that town, it actually ruined her. I mean, she was obsessed with trying to rectify what happened to her daughter, 20 years ago. And she was obsessed with that. And I think that the popularity ruined her.
Anybody else have a comment on that? Okay, the killer said, wine is always the most reliable crutch when it feels like I might fall. Several characters in the book could be described as functioning alcoholics. Attitudes to smoking have dramatically changed in recent years. Is alcohol simply Anna's generational drug of choice? Was that her generation's drug of choice, alcohol?
Or her drug of choice?
I would say yes.
They all drank.
Yeah. I would say yes.
I have to tell you, this whole book, all the drinking, it just brought up all the yucky feelings I had as a kid growing up in an alcoholic family. I mean, she's reaching in her purse. I'm like, no, don't do it. It may, you know, I have a nephew who died of alcoholism. I think some of my kids struggle with it, but there's just.
When she kept buying those miniatures, I was thinking, why doesn't she just get a big bottle and pour them into the little miniatures? Why did she have to keep it? That's where my mind went. Buy the big bottle.
You know what? You know what we call you, Tisha? We call you an enabler. That's what we call you.
Oh, I thought it was frugal.
Well, the scary thing was the fact that she had that breathalyzer. So she's very well aware of her problem, but look at what she was doing so she could continue to drink.
Yeah,
I think
That's
you call
a great
that.
way.
I think you call that a highly functional alcoholic. You know,
Yeah.
they're able to get through, but clearly they're totally addicted. She was totally.
I thought that was very clever. I would have never thought to do that.
The reason I was listening to this book is I was reading this other book called Trio by William Boyd, and I just finished it last night. But in that book, there's a writer, Elfrida Wing is her name, and she is a very high functioning alcoholic too. And it sort of is the story of her decline, and then she winds up going to live in like a convent setting, and it becomes she could leave at any time. It wasn't any place that she wasn't forced to go there, but the anonymity, Sharon, back to your point, the anonymity, because she had been a very famous writer. She had been called the next Virginia Woolf, and there was all this pressure to keep trying to do that. And she actually thought that she was like the next Virginia Woolf and that she was trying to kill herself. So anyhow, it was a really interesting book because in both, one I'm listening to and one I'm reading, and in both stories, there's these women who have so much talent, so much are so capable, and yet they're so addicted to alcohol. It was really interesting.
That was a novel?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Okay.
And the thing about the miniatures, Tisha, like the little opening is so small for you to try to fill miniatures from a big bottle.
Funnel.
You need a little tiny funnel, and I mean, it would take some effort. You would say
I would do it.
But also, I think some people, like I have a friend that does that. She has miniatures in her purse, and I think it's almost psychologically like I'm not really a drunk or I'm not really an alcoholic. I just take a little sip out of this cute little bottle when I need a little boost, and it's not really a problem. It's almost like minimizes your own.
The miniatures minimize your problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
It always amazes me how apparently alcohol, obviously, affects everybody differently. When you talk about high functioning alcoholic, I mean, that would never work for me. I don't even like to be drunk because I don't think I can't function. I don't know what's going on. And yet for some people, they become much better at functioning. So alcohol's a mystery, I think, when it comes to how it behaves in different people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's actually alcohol psychosis.
I mean, for Jack, Jack pretty much, I mean, he ended up drinking himself to sleep a lot of times. Whereas Anna, she would drink it in the morning to get going. And so she used it for different reasons, I guess. And then I guess the mother also was an alcoholic, right? No, three. Mom was an alcoholic as well. So there's just a lot of lot of alcoholism in this book.
What you said, they use it for different reasons. I think I understand what you're saying, and in a way that's true. I think they all use it to kill the pain. There's some pain there from whatever, wherever it's coming from. And the alcohol is to kill the pain of whatever the pain is.
Mhm.
Well, I suppose that's right. But I mean, for someone like myself, if I drank like that, I'd be useless, totally useless. So for their bodies, they must be able to take in that alcohol and still be able to perform well. And and that just sort of brings up the whole subject, alcoholism, how it behaves differently in everybody. I mean, for some, they love it. And for me, I hate being drunk.
Yeah. What
You
they,
know,
I mean,
the
Dan's family,
I don't think I've ever.
I was just gonna say, in
What?
Dan's family, there's a lot of alcoholics, and some of them are mean. Danny is not an alcoholic, thank God, but when he has a few drinks, he's hysterical. He's like a comedian. So in that same family, siblings, it affects the one gets mean and the other one's hysterically funny.
yeah,
So it's weird, and they're the same, they're brothers and sisters.
yeah.
But I think Kathy makes a really good point. It's a way to kill the pain, or just a way to numb stress or whatever. That's like it's really interesting. I had this conversation with a friend this morning who used to run a day spa that got like in the mid 90s, and it got very big very quickly because it was like the beginning of the internet. Got the internet, like she put up a website in her day spa, got like really hugely popular. And she goes, I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I didn't do anything. She goes, and I was just like drinking throughout the day, like little bits of like, she would go to, instead of having a lunch break, she'd go to the bathroom and just drink a glass of wine. She couldn't stop. She had to keep going. She had to keep this business going. And that's how she did it. She just numbed herself so that she anesthetized herself so she could keep going through the day. And I felt like that Anna was like that character. Like she just kept drinking to anesthetize herself so she could keep going, because she had all these goals, but she didn't have a healthy approach to how she was going to reach them because she was so screwed up.
Yeah, but the other thing that was interesting in that book, all these alcoholics, there was in so many ways, the author didn't show how Anna's drinking affected her colleagues or her cameraman or even her relationship with her husband. And Jack's drinking, and his I think his sister Zoe was a drinker too. But they didn't, in real life, if you're an alcoholic, it impacts everybody's life you touch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it did sort of in the way that Anna, it showed how she was checked out of her mother's life because she was drinking so much and she wasn't in tune with what was going on with her mother. And
The alcohol stopped her from checking in on her mom?
Probably.
I thought she drank because she was a bad daughter.
Well, she drank because she lost her daughter herself. Her daughter died. She drank for a lot of reasons, and I think the cameraman would make comments to her like, well, you knew that. Like she wasn't present with her relationship with him either.
Right.
She missed out on things that he said, and I don't know. I agree that it touches everybody.
I wasn't quite understanding of the bad relationship Anna had with her mother. I mean, when they were teens, they had their issues like every teen has with their mother. But I thought the reason that things changed for her was that 16th birthday party. Mm-hmm. That really wasn't anything her mother did. I mean, that's sort of what prompted her to get out of Dodge. So I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure
about that. What happened at that 16th birthday party?
Well, that's when these men were there.
Yeah.
And they went to
the mother
party.
When did the mother find out about that?
Just before she started killing everybody.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That she found the letter that Anna had written. So
Right.
It never made sense to me that she and her mother didn't have a good relationship, because there wasn't any real prompting for that, other than things went a little sour when her father disappeared. But anything can happen when you're a teen like that. It never quite made sense to me that she really had a problem with her mother. Why she kept her Why
Her
she
daughter
could-
died while at her mother's.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's,
Also, I think Anna was so ashamed of what happened on her birthday, and she thought if her mother knew, her mother would never forgive her for that either.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's this
Mhm.
expression, you're only as sick as your secrets are deep. And in a lot of this book, everybody was living with these deep, dark secrets. And the deeper they are, the sicker you are.
Yep.
You got to shine the light on that.
That's for sure.
That's an AA thing. My dad used to say that all the time.
Well, I also think that I don't think her mother was warm and fuzzy. And I think Anna, as she was growing up, was going through a lot of things like, her father being gone, and then what happened with her being in that school, and the tug and the pull of the types of relationships she established. And, even before that party, there were tugs in her association with those women. She felt like, oh, they're popular and isn't this great? But on the other hand, she knew that there was something not sinister about some of these women. And I think that she was troubled, and I don't think her mother was very warm and fuzzy. I'm not saying she was a bad mother, except when you become a serial killer, you can be characterized as a bad mother. I'm just saying,
I mean, what makes you become a serial killer, right? Like, what is that?
I don't know. There's a book on that somewhere there's a book on that. But I think, I really don't think she grew up, not that she was, hit or anything, but she grew up in an abusive family before, the mother took care of the father. I mean, he was nasty to the mother, to her mother, and to his wife. And that has an effect on people, I think, growing up in that type of family.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the killer said, funny how often life seems to work in reverse. We were children masquerading as adults, and now we are adults acting like children. The changing roles we play in life, family, and work feature several times in this book. Why did it take Anna so long to start looking after her mother? It's a good question. Why did it take her so long? Did she not want to go back to that town?
Partly because Jack was there, and that's where they buried her baby too. And so, she had a lot of trauma. I have no idea why none of these characters didn't seek counseling. If there was ever a family that needed counseling, it was that family.
That's a different book, Bernadette. That's a nonfiction book. All right. That's not this book. Okay.
And the fact that they all had National Health Service, benefits. It was, you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like they couldn't get it.
You are over-analyzing this so much.
I say right on.
I should have went to group therapy, the whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, counselor should have gotten those girls together and straightened their asses out.
Well, to answer Tisha's question, I think that she was working on herself for a while. I think the thing about not wanting to go back because the baby was there and Jack was there, and that incident, I think you brought that up to, what happened at her 16th birthday party. There were memories of that. Maybe she was afraid she would run into some of those girls, that perpetrated those incidents, especially Rachel. And so I think also she was just working on herself. I think she hadn't figured herself out, and she was distressed and upset, and she couldn't be something to her mother when she couldn't be something to herself. She couldn't be present for herself. I think that was part of it myself.
Yeah, and I think you're right when you said earlier you didn't get a warm and fuzzy feeling from the mother or that relationship with her daughter. They talked about how cute the cottage was, that people would come from all around and drive to the end of the block and look at this perfect cottage. But it was very superficial. You never really got much more about a relationship there that.
I think another thing was Anna saw her mom as subservient to most of the people. She worked for all of them in a cleaning capacity. And I think for Anna, there was, there's nothing wrong with doing, jobs like that. But for Anna, especially once she became a BBC newscaster, broadcaster, there was something about her mother doing menial work and being paid by the people. And, Rachel, she was yucky. She played on that, like, hi there, and could tell Anna that I said hi. And, she set up the 16th birthday party by using the mother, yeah.
I sort of got the feeling that even though it was make-believe, that she started to soften towards her mother when she thought she had dementia.
Yeah.
Well, she didn't believe it when Jack told her until she went there and actually saw it for herself.
Right.
Yeah, so, let me tell you how mean I think that lady was. There's this former son-in-law taking care of her, and she's just totally playing him. That is mean.
Yep.
Manipulative. I didn't like her.
I did find the mom character sort of unbelievable because that was a lot of planning and thinking and conniving and everything that I think anybody that had those skills would have lived a different life than she did to start with. So I had trouble with her being all these awful things that she ended up being, because I didn't give her credit for that. Even to the point when she went into that school and found a voice distorter and used it to distort her voice. That's when I thought, okay, this character is not working right for me.
Yeah, it was kind of unbelievable, like sewing Zoe's eye shut, or the staples with the letters and.
Well, and I think some people might say, well, you could understand. It wouldn't be me that would say this, but you can understand why she had such animosity towards those girls once she read the letter that her daughter had written, and so she did these things to those girls, and so you say, well, maybe she's somewhat of a sympathetic character for that reason. She was, she was protecting her child, not protecting but avenging her child, and maybe all of us would want to do that. Again, I'm not saying that, but some have said that. But the thing is, then she killed Kat because she wanted her daughter to get the job. Kat was a victim as much as Anna was a victim of that 16th birthday party. Kat was probably a bigger victim. Yeah. And and here's the mother killing Kat so that her daughter can get this job that she wants. And I thought, well, who is this woman? Is she someone that feels for her daughter so much that she's going to become a serial killer? Or is she somebody that just wants to get her daughter ahead, just a manipulator? I don't know. It was confusing.
Yeah, her character.
And at the end, in the epilogue, they're like insinuating that she might actually kill Priya too, if Priya keeps investigating.
Exactly. Yes, she was. And you know what? I have to say that as soon as I found out who the mother was, in terms of her character, I really had a question about what happened to the baby. Now, she had no reason to kill the baby, but the baby was in her, care when the baby died. And I don't think she did. I'm not saying that, but I really did think for a while, I wonder if she killed the baby, because she was killing everybody. It didn't matter. Everybody was dead, that came into her vision,
But for as evil,
maybe the death of her grandbaby in her care put her over the edge and she became a whack job. I got to tell you, that would do me in.
Yeah.
But she killed her husband before that.
Yeah.
To be as evil as she was, how did no one pick up on that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the problem I had with that character. She just didn't blend quite well. Well.
So
Okay.
can I say something off this topic, but about the book, Tisha?
Mhm.
I loved the author's style, how she so often would say something like about, within one sentence, she would do these contrasting things. Like I can't think of an example right now, but like it was the brightest of days. And as Anna moved forward into her picture in her future, and then though something about her dark, gloomy past, there was all these passages. I started trying to write them down because I was listening to it, but I really liked, I thought some of the writing was very lyrical, almost poetical. So, and I don't think I typically see that in thriller books. So I liked the writing.
Yeah, same here.
I agree. And I don't typically like thriller or, detective or thriller murder mysteries or whatever, but the depth of character in that kind of painting that she did with the language was really, really well done.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
All right, the killer said that it might be true that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but sometimes the apple can roll down a hill far, far away from where it landed. So how much do you think Anna and her mother really have in common? Anything in common?
Well, I think they are somewhat alike. I do. I don't think to the extreme. I don't think Anna is after I got through the whole book, I saw her for who she was, Anna, and I didn't think she was the type of person that could murder someone. But she did hide the knife, and she did make sure that they didn't find them. Now, maybe understandably so at that point, her mother, was dying of cancer, and, she was trying to protect her, but she hid the knife so that no one would know, who. And the fact that she did that may put Priya in danger. The book left off with that, I mean, it's possible that Priya is on her way out, and Anna protecting her
Do you think
mother.
that was intentional? Do you think there's going to be a sequel?
That's a good question. That might be good, but she knew at the end. You see that Anna knows that her mother did all these things, and she hides the knife, and she talks about the knife that killed them all. Anna talks about that in the hospital, that she had the knife that killed them all, and she knew. So,
but she didn't say that. She didn't tell Jack, right?
No, I don't think she told anybody. No.
Mm-mm. But the mother and daughter did what they had to do.
Yes, she did say that several times. We did what we had to do, or I did what I had to do. Yeah.
That's what they both said.
I thought one thing that both the mother and daughter had in common was this need for external validation. I mean, the mother loved having all these, even though she was working for these people, she loved having them appreciate her and give her extra money at the holidays. She loved working on her cottage so people would come through. She loved doing her own garden. She took great pride in all that stuff. And I think that Anna very much was looking for external validation, first from her high school friends, and then from, the people at work, and from Jack. So anyhow, I just, and I kept thinking that maybe if Jack and Anna's baby hadn't died, she could have found a new way to be in the world. But that would mess with anybody's mind.
Yes, I think that's very true.
Okay. Okay, the killer said, youth fools us into thinking there are infinite paths to choose from in life. Maturity tricks us into thinking there is only one. Age discrimination is an interesting topic in this novel. Is society too quick to judge the elderly?
That's why we're doing prime time, baby.
Hello, Bernadette.
You're not elderly.
No, but
I do think that the dementia thing was easy to believe for the mother because she was of a certain age, so it was, I think nobody thought that she could be doing any of this or was in any way involved because she was too old. She was an old lady who had dementia. So to me, that was where ageism came in. It was like she could be set aside and not thought of, so she could get away with whatever she wanted to get away with. I mean, because no one was going to think an old lady did that stuff, especially one who was crazy, you know.
Right. Yep, I think that's true. So I know I've probably said this to you guys, but you know, the World Health Organization has this statistic on their website that ageism is more prevalent than racism and sexism combined, because nobody even questions the ageist thinking. The stereotypes are just accepted.
Mm-hmm.
They did this study. They asked kids as young as 3 years old, what are old people like? And there's all these little kids saying grumpy and mean and
stupid and
yeah, they can't walk. They need help, and it's like ah!
Yeah.
That's why we have to stand on our heads or something.
Yeah.
Do belly dancing, Angela.
That's why the plastic surgery industry will never go out of existence, because everybody wants to be younger, you know?
Yeah, but you know, that's not even, that
A
doesn't,
good example.
that to me, that's almost like playing into the stereotype that if you look this way, then you're no longer attractive or not valued, or yeah, it's a shaming of the age as opposed to the celebration of it.
Oh no, that was my point. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the saddest thing is, and I see it now with my husband, is doctors treat you differently when you're older.
Yes.
And it's scary. It is very scary, because you know
they would talk down to you or what, Karen?
No, it's you know, depending on what's going on, they'll say, you know, well, you know, you're getting towards the end of life, things like that. The implication is that you don't have much longer to live. Enjoy it the best you can, the way you can. You aren't looked at the same. I see it all the time now, and it just tears my heart out, because you know, why should anybody decide who, you know, a 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old, even a 50-year-old get different treatment in 60, 70, and 80s. It's different. And it's sad to watch. I didn't know I'd ever see it, but you do.
Do you think, is it almost like the value of that older life is not as high?
Well, that and, you know, your contribution, I think they also, it appears as though your contribution to life isn't as significant as it once was.
Yeah.
I mean,
meanwhile, look how old the president is. I mean, obviously that's not true.
Yeah.
Contribution is valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
you have to accept it.
No, right. Yeah. But as I say, ageism in that case is really, that's a tough one to swallow. It's one thing. I had a friend who, she lost her job because of her age, and you know, she was making more money than, you know, the traditional thing, the person that's making money. Anyhow, and she went to an attorney, and the attorney says, I doubt we'll get anywhere with it. So she said, I think you ought to just settle. And that's what they did. But, you know, her contribution wasn't considered worthy anymore either. So
and then it's hard to get a job at that age too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Kathy and I have talked about that aging thing, and we've read this and said, like, it's like you're not relevant anymore. What a cool,
that's the unfortunate implication. I don't even know whether the healthcare people want to imply that or not, but that's what comes down. That's what comes out. And I remember it had to happen a couple of times till it registered with me what was going on.
I think
it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I read this anti-ageist or anti-racism, that's what it was. And they make a big difference in there between intention and impact. So what you intend might not be a racist statement, but the impact is felt that way. And so when people are dealing with people of a certain age, the intention might not be to value you less, the intention might not be that. It might be to be sensitive to where you are, but the impact, the way it lands is this, you know, you're on death's door or something like that.
Exactly right.
And
Yeah,
I think the, I'm going to get on my soapbox here. I think the answer to that, the antidote to that, is to live life and to be seen at this age, to live fully, and don't let anybody, you know, somebody says you can't do something, do it twice as good as they say you can't even do it. Because I think, not just with this, but in anything, if you don't see it, you don't believe it. It's why we have to have Black teachers and Black physicians and Hispanic congresspeople, because though other people from that ethnic group, if they can't see this as a possibility for themselves, then they can't believe it for themselves.
Yeah.
So that is part of the ages thing too. People, our movies, our books, they all betray. That book, I love that book. What was the book we read? Ova, A Man Called Ova.
Oh yeah, me and Corave.
He was a big fat grumpy Buddhist, but you know, I love that book. But it was, if I were to read it now, I'd be like, oh my God, they're stereotyping all old people. They're perpetuating that stereotype, rather.
This is
But it's
just like, I'm sorry.
But I mean, I'm sorry, Marcia, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just a simple little example. I'm going to physical therapy for this hand surgery, and I go in and Emily is at the desk. She's a lovely young gal. She's probably 20 something. And I don't think I'm imagining this, but when I go in, she's like, how are you doing today? And there's just this little bit of this condescending, if I was 30, it would be, hey, how's it going? How are you doing today?
You hate her, Marcia, right?
It's like, you know, I'm not in diapers yet, but that's not even what I'm getting at. It's just this condescending looking down, like you're older. Let me show respect. You're such a cute little old lady, kind of.
Yeah, let me tell you, being short, I get that all the time.
Oh, I'll bet.
Same here.
So annoying.
Cute little.
Probably different. I think there are
Yes.
cultures. I do think there are cultures, though, that do respect and treat the elderly with respect. I think perhaps our culture is not one of those.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to say something else too. I must say, I could not do what Anna did. I could not hide that knife. I could not protect my mother like that. I would never be able to do that. That surprised me that she did that.
Way to bring it back to the book. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, good job.
Book, what book? What book are we talking about?
Yeah, right.
I did warn Angela about this when she was thinking about joining. I said, let me tell you, we talk about the book, but we
get
talk
off
about
topic.
ourselves.
Oh my God. No, I do want to go back to the book, and I have a confession to make. I didn't actually finish the book, although I did skip ahead to find out, because I was like, well, they're going to spoil it for me tonight.
Yeah, they are. Yep.
I'm like, I'm such a bad girl. I didn't finish, because I was reading some other books. Yeah, and I got my dates mixed up, but I just wanted to jump in on that thing that Karen, you just brought up, because that's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, culturally, right? We value people who produce money and things and money and more money. Like if there's a monetary value and you're in the part of your life, that part of your life where you're producing, you have a job, you're adding to the GDP, you're making, you're driving the engine of our economic system, then you have value. But all the rest, the very young and the very old, generally speaking, they're on the out, they're not contributing to that. So we institutionalize those people, the very young,
But in
and the
contrast,
very old.
in Asian and Hispanic communities, they do value the elderly for the knowledge that they share, for the wisdom they pass down through the generations. And there they are not, they're in multi-generational homes. They're not
Correct.
in assisted living.
Middle Eastern countries do the same thing. And there's
some Asian countries too, for sure.
Yeah.
It's that relevance. It's like what you're saying, Angela, like you're not relevant if you're not in that one of those producing groups.
You're not producing. And that's, and you cost too much money. You get 55, 60, 65,
Right.
you're in that job that you've been in for 35 years. You cost too much money out because you're no good for the bottom line.
Yep.
And that you have to, that is a huge part. I mean, like it or not, there's benefits to the way we approach our culture, you know, and we have it in terms of what we're talking about. It's extremely undervalued. You know, it's a reality.
Well, you know, if we value money, then that's the thing we honor. If
Correct.
we value some people and who they are and what their information flow is, that's a different, you know, that's a different value.
So, but
Correct.
we have, you know, in our age bracket, within our age bracket, there is the ability to find common ground and find unanimity on shifting that. If everybody who was 50 and over stood up and said, no, there's more to life than money, there's more to life than, and here's, and we're living our life, we're showing the connections. And actually, it's kind of crazy, but in the blue zones, which are the parts of the world where people live the longest, you know, it's not about the money. The people who live the longest, who are the people that have the most connections, the people that have had that sense of support and what Kathy was just saying about being valued. So, yeah.
They also eat a lot of extra virgin olive oil. That's the key. That's the key.
Yeah, but right off the coast of Italy, there's Sardinia. Is that it? Sardinia, Karen?
Sicily, Sardinia.
Sardinia is a blue zone.
Sardinia, yes.
Sicily is not. And they are right next to each other geographically. They eat the same diet. But they said Sardinia is a smaller community and everybody's known and they have support and the elderly are valued. So
okay, never mind then. Never mind.
We're all moving there.
Just saying, I've thought about moving there.
They all live close to the earth. They all live close to the earth, very connected to gardening, growing, the sky, the water, nature.
Meanwhile, speaking of gardening, I wondered how Anna's mother's vegetables tasted with their father underneath it. He fertilized them all.
Very, very good.
I brought it back to the book.
Just jerk it right back in.
Bingo, bingo.
I just want to know, Marcia does a lot of gardening. Who's buried in your garden?
Yeah. How green are they? Okay,
I can think of a few people I'd like to bury there.
If we see her walking around the neighborhood in her nightgown, pretending she's out of it, we'll know.
We know, serial killer, serial killer.
Okay, the killer said worry makes her world go round. Several of the characters suffer from one or more forms of anxiety. Did that hinder them, or did it somehow make them more determined to achieve their goals?
Oh, all interesting questions. What are the answers? What does it say the answers? Where's the cheat sheet on this?
Tisha made these all up by herself.
Oh yeah, I wish. They did have a lot of anxiety. Everyone suffered from it.
Well, I mean,
I think in their professional life, it helped them. In their personal life, I think it did not.
Jack didn't help his professional life.
Stop that, Bernadette.
Oh, sorry. Stop yawning.
Karen, what were you going to say? I'm sorry. We were talking at the same time.
Oh, well, I think anxiety was a big deal for Anna.
Yep.
Because she really wanted to do well in her job. And so, you know, she liked her work, but that kept her going. It was the one thing she wanted to hang on to.
Yeah.
So she, you know, the anxieties were there, even though she, you know, downplayed them with her alcohol.
Yeah, constantly with the self-soothing. how often she said, I really need a drink right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good.
Do you think she drank that much before the baby was died?
I was wondering the same thing.
No, we don't
We
know.
don't know.
We have no way of knowing.
I do think
You know,
sometimes.
and that's the other thing with alcohol. People say it numbs it. And I'm like, okay, it numbs it. Well, when you come alive again, now there it is again. Yeah, it never quite understood why you keep on alcohol to cover up a problem. You know, it's like people never address it. They just cover it up. And Anna did the same thing, and it ended up taking her marriage, you know, down.
Yeah. Well, alcoholism is something that a lot of people suffer from. So I think they feel like, they even say with drug abuse that at the beginning, like heroin or cocaine or one of those, they say you really get this high and you feel so good, but then as time goes on, you don't feel that good. In fact, many times you feel crappy. This is what I've read. I just want you to know. This is what.
Sure.
Yeah. And
Speaking as an expert.
yeah, speaking as the expert that I am. And so, it then becomes less and less, but you still do it the same amount because your mind has told you this is gonna, you've kind of switched on these synapses in your mind that tell you this is gonna be a help. I just think that's part of it. That's a little bit of whatever. My dad was an alcoholic. My brother died of alcoholism. So, it kind of goes in families. I think it becomes more mental than it becomes physical. There's a dependence on it, even if it doesn't help.
If you're drinking for a problem, the problem's can always be there.
Mhm.
It doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, the killer said memories are shapeshifters. Some bend, some twist, some shrivel and die over time. So sometimes Anna and Jack's memories don't quite match. Did two people ever really remember things the exact same way? I say no.
No.
No. Yep. I agree. Yep.
And you can tell yourself something. You can change your own memories. I think sometimes people do that. You have a specific, perspective on a memory, and you just convince yourself. You can convince yourself that something happened a certain way, and then over time that becomes your truth. And
the other thing that happens is if you have a memory and you take it out of the file box of your brain and take it out and you revise it, and you take it out next year and revise it. When you put it back in, you're 2 years different from who you were the last time. So when you put back the memory, it's altered by who you are that from the last time you took out that memory. So even if there's no intentionality in trying to change how you have a memory, I'm pretty sure that we all of our memories change over time. I was just, when you were reading that, I remembered one of the biggest Howard sister fights. God, we were driving up to see my grandfather before he died, and my mom's driving and all 7 of the sisters are in this car. And somebody says, remember this? And no, that's not what happened. No, that's not what happened. No, that's it. And we had this huge fight. My mom pulls over on the interstate. God damn it! Get out of the car! And she was furious. And we all were like, oh my God, look at how we have and we were younger then, so we were like really committed to this was how it was. And none of us remembered it the exact same way. And it was, for me, I learned early that I don't have the same, there is no such thing as a shared reality. Everybody's reality is their perception.
Yep.
And that was like really clear in my mind. And I think it was a good learning experience, but it was also not a pleasant one.
Yeah.
Your mom.
Huh?
Your poor mom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we had no heat in the car that time. The heater wasn't working. So like we're fighting over these blankets. We don't want to even sit next to each other because we're so mad because they don't remember it right. Oh my God.
This
You
is
were all
how
fired up. You had,
This-
you
And
generated energy.
I'm the quiet one in my family. I'm just saying so.
this is how serial killers develop. That's all I have to say. This is the genesis of a serial killer, right? Backseat, right there. That's it.
Be careful.
Also
There,
why
careful. This meeting is being recorded, so just be careful.
That's also why witness testimony in court is so unreliable, because everyone
Mhm.
sees the same scene from their own perspective.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Isn't it funny how we're so evolved because we can talk, whereas our wonderful pets or whatever, people that can't speak another language that sometimes seems so much clearer and purer. Words are such a double-edged sword. They really screw us up. We use them to try to communicate and clarify and express ourselves. And like Bernadette's example, like, that's not what happened. Well, but you said, but he said, but that's not what she said. I always thought it'd be cool to go to one of those like monks meditative things for however long where you don't talk at all.
Mhm.
I don't know if I could do it, but
I would lose my mind.
They wouldn't let me in.
And you can tell us. You can tell us how that works out for you, Marcia.
Postcard. Okay, the killer said people rarely see themselves the way others do. We all carry broken mirrors.
Yeah.
And is anyone who they first seemed to be in this novel? I don't think anybody was.
No, not for me. No.
Yeah, Anna's boss, the one that couldn't say his R's.
Oh, that was funny. I listened to that at Audible.
Like Elmer Fudd.
Well,
I thought Priya was pretty consistent.
Yep.
Oh.
She was sort of no nonsense, and she, wanted to be a good cop, and even, she admired Jack, but she wasn't going to not at least have suspicions. She was the only one who was going back to talk to the mother. She was following the possibilities as opposed to following the stories that people told themselves. But she was a little bit of an outsider. So I think she had a clearer view of what was going on. She wasn't, her perspective wasn't altered based on the shared history.
Yeah.
And she's dead in the sequel. You know it.
Well, I kind of thought Jack was pretty much himself. I mean, he didn't really put on an act.
I thought so too. Yeah.
And see, I
Covering up a lot.
he was totally lying to his boss that he didn't say that he knew the woman who was murdered, or that he had relationships with her, or that he suspected maybe his sister was involved in some of the mean girl stuff in high school,
Or that he found the fingernails in his
he didn't. Yeah,
he covered up a lot.
yeah. I didn't think he was too forthright.
Well, I can tell you right now, I don't think that mom was smart enough to set him up the way that book said she did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get an accomplice? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's in the sequel too.
You're ruining it for us, Tish. Okay,
Sorry.
you're ruining
I
it.
didn't write it yet.
I'm not reading that book now because of you. Because of you.
what's the sequel? What's the name of it?
She's
just making
kidding.
it up.
She's making it up.
She's writing it. Tisha's writing it
I
as we
actually was
speak.
believing it. What can I say?
Yeah.
You can just start typing away.
Yeah.
Okay, there's only one more. The killer said the sting of loneliness is only ever temporary, like that of a nettle. If you don't scratch at the solitude, it starts to feel normal again soon enough. So loneliness is such a big theme in this book and affects almost every character on some level, regardless of their age. Is life in 2020 more or less lonely than it used to be? Wow.
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Not until I got in with this group. Okay.
Until COVID.
COVID, yeah.
So there
Well,
were
I
a lot
think
of
it's a
people
lot.
that were-
Well, and things change too. Now that I've become a caregiver, there's a type of loneliness that moves in, and I'll have to figure out, how to work around that, because I used to get my car and go meet friends for lunch and do this and do that and the other thing, go shopping, down at Tyson's Corner and things. I don't do those things anymore. So there's a loneliness sets in because I'm more tuned into my home. But anytime you have loneliness, I think if you're not happy with it, you find a way to fill it. I mean, the book club's been great for me, and there's been a couple other outlets too. So, loneliness doesn't have to be permanent. And it's not always bad either. Sometimes it feels good to be lonely, just doing nothing.
There's a difference between being lonely and being alone.
Exactly.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's generational too. I think,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
younger people, there's so much on their devices. And I don't know if they would characterize themselves as lonely. I mean, I think the older generations I've read a lot of articles about how that's a lonely existence, and the more our technology allows us to reach out and connect with people, the less we connect with people because of the way we're doing it, and we're not out playing in the yard with them or doing this or that. But I don't know if you actually, I've not seen a study which actually asked those people who are on their devices all the time and interacting with maybe hundreds of people, whether they felt lonely or not. That would be lonely, I think, for a lot of us. That would be a lonely way to lead our lives if we.
I actually have research on that. And,
Do you? That's interesting.
The number of people who are reporting loneliness, even prior to COVID, is increasing in younger generations.
Oh, and before COVID. Okay. And well, I'm not surprised by that. I think it's lonely being on your phone all the time, saying hello to people.
They also said that even if there are relationships, the comparisons that occur on social media, and somebody's watching, so that they might see a picture of a friend with a friend that they both know, but you weren't included. So, that they've come up with this term called FOMO, fear of missing out. I think it's a real thing. And I do think that there's ways to mitigate it, but you have to be willing to say, I'm not going to pick up my phone. I have to say, I use Facebook for my work, but I don't spend much time looking at it other than that. I feel like it could easily take up your time.
Yep.
Yeah, like real relationships with people where you're like with somebody and you're talking and you're not picking up your phone and you're maybe outside. I think nature and relationships and feeling connected.
So speaking of spending time with people, and we did earlier, everybody was talking about having their vaccines. I had a woman on Women, Wine, and Financial Freedom. She's the owner of, oh, sorry, Tisha, are we done?
That was it. Yeah, that was the last question.
Okay. Her name is Peggy Raleigh Ward, and she was in her early 20s. She wrote for some French magazine and another US magazine on wines. And then she moved back to her farm in Delaware with her dad, and they started growing grapes, and they were going to make wine. And it turns out that Delaware had a law saying that you couldn't make wine. So she actually drafted legislation and got it through as a young woman, and it passed. And now she's had this winery for 28 years. But she also has a career as a jazz singer. So
oh my God.
She has an event coming up in October, and it's a jazz festival. And she was talking about the tickets, and I said, so if there was a group of Prime Time for Women wanted to come by, is there a group rate? She goes like this, There could be. And I thought of all of my book club friends, and I don't know if we'd open it up any more than that, but I'm going to send you some information about it. Tonight, she couldn't stay too long because she was doing another event at her winery to help a fundraise for a nonprofit. It was called Sipping with Sloths, and this conservation group brought sloths to the winery, and people got to hold the sloths and get their pictures taken and drink wine and eat food. And and they had live music too. So I was like, okay, I just want to go there and hang out. But I thought I would tell you all about that.
I'm in. If I'm in town, I'm in.
I'll let you know.
It's in October, she said, but she doesn't.
Where?
There's a couple events. I'm going to send you the little list that she gave me. But I also did want to say that, Kathy, you are the presenter next month.
Yes, I am.
May 18th.
Yep.
Do it outside.
The book is entitled Without Reservations, Travels of an Independent Woman. And for some reason, I don't have the author here. I have every other author.
It's Steinbach. Alice Steinbach, but I've got it right here. I can tell you.
Okay.
Wait just a second.
Can we do it outside, Jenny?
Yeah, we can try to do that.
Right
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. It would be lovely to see everybody.
Yeah.
It would.
This is
Is it a novel, Kathy?
It's Alice Steinbach. Yeah.
We
Alice.
can't hear you.
Oh, wait. I didn't have my thing on where I could talk. It's Alice Steinbach, Without Reservations.
Is it a novel?
No, it is it's not a journal, but it's a woman who has, I don't remember if she's divorced, or I have to go back, I read it a while ago, or her husband died, but it's being able to live with being a woman on your own at an advanced age. I mean, she's not 90 or anything, but I think a lot of women, confront those issues.
So Kathy, I had this statistic for you. This lady last week said 80% of men, when 80% of men die, they're married. 80% of women are single when they die.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's partly because women live longer because they make more connections. So
Absolutely. And this is a woman who, is living on her own, and how she's made a life living as an independent woman, and a very good life. And it resonated with me. I thought, I know a lot of people that are in that position, and some don't know how to cope with it. They're like done with life.
Okay, so read this book and Kathy will teach you a lesson.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Bernadette, I'm not coming next month.
The heck you're not.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so is everybody interested in trying to meet at Pangborn Park?
Yeah.
Okay.
Karen, did you?
I have a question. How do you spell Steinbach, the last name?
It's Steinbach.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, Tisha, great job. Thank you for facilitating.
Thank you, Tisha.
Ladies.
It was a barn
night,
burner.
everybody.
It was a barn burner, Tisha. It was unbelievable. It's like, I stayed up all night reading the book. Damn you.
We thought you looked a little tired.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. Good to see you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Nighty night.
Nighty
Bye-bye.
night. Bye.